this is the first tactical session of the MACO division. So what we're going to be doing today is covering a more specific bias towards tactical, as we covered last week. Last week it was more of a generalized introduction to general strategies and general basics, what you probably need to know, what all the classes would really need to know. This session is mostly going to be directed by Hershey for a start, and second of all, we're going to be doing it specifically for tactical profession characters. Now, that doesn't mean specifically escorts and not cruisers. It means tacticals. So, but for this first session, we'll mostly be covering the basics of pure escorts, and on the ground, well, it's rather natural to just be like that, really. But couple of basic kits. Yeah, we'll be covering the most common items initially, and then we'll be getting to more advanced stuff as the sessions go on, as described before.
Later on.
So kick it off when you're ready, Hershey.
Okay, guys, here we go. So, tactical officers are most useful in DPS or damage roles. They do their best work while dealing damage to enemies into ground or in space combat. They do this by maximizing the damage output of their energy and projectile weaponry. Energy means beams and cannons, and projectile weaponry means torpedoes and mines. And through increasing the potential through various attack patterns. The kit powers on the ground allow them to put increased damage as well as spike damage. So, tactical career path officers' abilities are increasing damage, lower target's damage resistance rating, and lower bridge officer cooldowns. Players who are looking to optimize their damage output should be picking this career path. Tactical officers are useful not only in PvP but across the game. We have several classes of ships best suited for tactical officer. They are the escorts, which is primarily Federation ships, Raptors, who are essentially escorts. They fulfill the same role, but their selection is a little sparse. Now we have also the tactical warbirds. We can they are characters, but they're battle cloaks, low damage resistance, singularity powers, and pretty much crits. Let's talk about escorts. So, escorts are primarily the offensive vessels. They are characterized with high turn rates, low base hull, shields, uneven weapon slots between fore and aft, ability to load dual heavy cannons and dual cannons. Also a low number of device slots, heavy emphasis on tactical buff settings and console slot. So tactical captains usually fly ships with a small amount of self-sufficiency and a great deal of spike damage. It's up to each tactical captain to decide how much self-sufficiency he has to have and how much spike damage is necessary to his own ship. As we said, escorts are for the most part the best fit for tactical captains. Examples include the most famous Damhadar attack ship, or the Federation Tactical Escort Retrofit, or the Akir, or Patrol Escort. Hit and run vessels could theoretically be used as well, although they suffer from the low hull rating. Examples include Bird of Prey or Tavor Warbird. So let's talk about the most common used ensign slot power, which is tactical team. Tactical team is a useful ability no matter what ship you command. It offers bonus to tactical captains in boosting the energy weapons and projectile weapon skills. It also removes boarding parties and tactical debuff like, let's say, fire on my mark, but it's a mostly recognizable feat. It's automatic distribution of shield points. So if you take fire to one shield facing and you activate your tactical team, your shields are automatically moved around to better defend your starship. And it does this far quicker than you can do it manually. Tactical team lasts for 10 seconds and has a 30 seconds cooldown, which could be brought down significantly with tactical team DOFs. Any questions so far? Okay, so let's talk about the primary use of escorts in PvP match, which is Alpha Strike. Do we have any volunteers?
I'll go.
Oh, me too.
Be a victim of an alpha.
Are we on the same team? Let's see.
No, I'll be the victim.
M.A.C.O can ambush Caliban there. Caliban can be the victim. Sers can be the Alpha Striker.
Poor Caliban.
Moment.
I am to act as a PvP match, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Very well.
This is just an example, so...
Yep.
Are you in the Compel town?
Yarr.
So I'll just briefly say what Alpha Strike is. So, a ship with a high damage potential such as an escort or a battle cruiser, the apex of its combat prowess is its Alpha Strike. So, put simply, the Alpha Strike is very first attack by an allied group against an enemy group. A good Alpha Strike can immediately imbalance the terms of the engagement to the players and when in PvP, disorientate and, most importantly, intimidate the enemy. So, the way to perform an Alpha Strike comes in twofold. So, first, the player must strike their opponent as quickly as possible, before the other side have time to respond. Secondly, the player must use everything on their disposal to maximize their damage potential. The heaviest weapons should be used. The maximum 125 weapon power should preferably be in effect, and all available buffs should be applied at once. So just remember, though, not all buffs stack. If there are multiple allied vessels within range, all should focus on the same target. So, Sir's Alpha Strike Killer Bill.
He did.
And
Yep. It dented his shield at the side, but as you can see, that his initial strike was probably the most powerful he can have.
yes,
It
so,
dented the shields as much as he can.
so that's one-on-one, but when you have multiple characters waiting for to Alpha Strike a target which fellow science officer has just sub-nuked, there's a little number of players that could survive that. So Alpha Strike is the best weapon for a tactical captain. Surprise, Alpha Strike, boom boom, he's dead.
I'd also like to cover a more enhanced version of that. It's more effective on ships with battle clocks.
Of course. So you decloak,
Yeah.
Alpha, buff up decloak, Alpha Strike, and there's no way they can survive that. There's a way, but very difficultly.
So things like Klingon birds of prey and especially Romulan ships will be the most effective at this.
Yeah, with the cloak. Also, the tactical escort retrofit, the one of the two Federation vessels that has cloak, but how do I say, not...
It's not battle cloak.
Yeah, it's not a battle cloak, that's it.
And don't use it because it's not part of the ship's combat functions.
Yeah, of course. You also lose one console slot while equipping it, so it's not useful on Federation players, but as we said on the Klingon ships and Romulan warbirds, it's a must. So let's cover up another tactical specialized scenario, which is hit and run. Anyone is there? Do we have a bird of prey?
Yep, I can do that.
Totally. Pick a target. And just...
If you guys aren't too far away.
Sorry,
yeah, far away, just moving
one moment. To head back to the middle asteroid. Or middle planet rather.
Yeah, middle. Go.
Thor, if we're not on the same team, I'll take the hit.
So, I'll just cover hit and run tactics very briefly. Stop firing at the guy. For this scenario, I would like if anyone has a better equipped vessel or a cruiser, that would be most preferable.
You say recruit vessel just as going all out on Foley.
I can do a fairly effective hit and run with high damage on this ship.
Okay.
Need a target. Where are you, Killer Bin?
Oops, sorry, still firing.
Yeah. So when
hold fire.
So hit and run tactic. So when you command a vessel with weak defenses or limited healing.
Hershey, hang on. Sir, stop firing.
You alive, sirs?
Yeah.
Oh no, he's blinded by revenge. Okay.
Oh, Trigger for some reason started attacking me.
Never mind, let's just continue.
My weapons might be on auto fire, I forget.
Disable. So let's continue with hit and run. So when commanding a vessel with weak defenses or limited healing abilities such as escort or a bird of prey, it is necessary to avoid enemy fire, of course, as much as possible. The standard hit and run pattern is to charge weapons and their associated buffs before reaching weapons range, and dealing as much damage as possible in 1 or 2 volleys, and overshooting the target and moving out of the range of their own weapons. So it's important to maintain momentum throughout that maneuver, minimize the period of the time that players or your own vessel is exposed to enemy fire. So in order to aid the running phase of that tactic, there are several options that could enhance players' ability to evade incoming fire. To name a few, of course, there's the most used one, which is evasive maneuvers. It is useful in not only this situation, but every other one. Alternatives also include enter batteries or deuterium surplus, or the ability of auxiliary to dampeners. Especially this ability auxiliary dampeners would be covered in upcoming tech sessions. Bird of prey captains have access, as you know, to battle cloaks and has battle cloak abilities, so they are extremely useful evading enemy aggression. The ship doesn't need to stand down from red alert like red ones in order to cloak.
That doesn't limit it necessarily to those ships, though.
No, that's just
they
an
can be
example.
effective on
Yeah.
other escorts that can't cloak, like the Temporal Destroyer.
Yeah, that's just an example. So, as an electronic science captain, also have access, as you know, to Photonic Fleet, which could generate a number of holographic vessels to act as a decoy until you ran out of the enemy weapon range. So, let's see that in action. So,
I'll demonstrate it, shall I?
yeah, 1 or 2 volleys, up, fire, overshot, then leave the weapon range. So, see what VV got there. He left weapons range, but he could also, I don't know if that VV you have enhanced battle cloak. If you have, he could also.
On the Temporal Destroyer
No,
it doesn't, but
sorry,
if it was a bird of prey, I would have easily been able to cloak or run the warbird.
Yeah, so he could cloak and fly away. So that tactic, Alpha Strike and Hit and Run, most effective to use for tactical captains in PvP situations, especially when you are in a group. So that's pretty much it for space for today. Just a little introduction to tactical captains and their roles. There's
I just want to cover the basic escorts, because I mean you have escorts for Federation ship, but what are the classifications for Klingon and Romulan ships? I mean, Romulan ships are as simple as a warbird with the commander tactical. Klingon ships are basically the same, but they're categorized in like 3 different areas. You have a Raptor, a Destroyer, and the Bird of Prey. The Bird of Prey is sort of a hybrid between, well, it's universal to everything. It's also used for science, not just tactical. But it does have the innate plus 15 to weapons, which would make it an effective tactical ship, despite it being so squishy. And like demonstrated, I could have easily enhanced battle cloaked if I was in the Bird of Prey just then. So it's an effective hit and runner. So Raptors, Destroyers, and the Birds of Prey as well are Klingon classifications for escorts.
Okay, let's PvP.
Yay.
Yay.
We'll come around after this match. Also for tactical captains, the red matter capacitor is extremely useful for an alpha strike, as it boosts not only your weapon power but all remaining powers. So when you go to alpha strike or decloak, you have enough power to sustain counterattack from the ship, if he, of course, survives.
A good way of using a tactical ship is to perhaps use reverse or 25% speed to turn on the spot and aim cannons.
Yeah.
That's always very useful.
Also, just not just for technical captains, but when you are now in a group like this, it's preferable that you don't fly at full impulse speed. 3/4 is very sufficient, and it's preferable to full speed. When you are a technical captain like I am now in a bug ship, when I go full impulse, in most times I just overshot the target. So 3/4 is enough.
There may be some rare circumstances where full impulse may be necessary, maximum impulse may be necessary to evade incoming fire.
Yeah, that's it.
It does have its uses.
Good example of that is my ship right here, which really only has any use as a speed tank.
Speed tanks are really useful in escorts because he has the most maneuverability.
So in the upcoming tactical sessions, we'll cover some example escort ship builds. We'll cover preferable traits, TOFs, and reputation. Also, if anyone has problems with their keybinds, I posted in the MACO division headquarters a very simple keybind to use, which gives all your power to bind to space, so you don't need to find them anywhere else. It's the most easiest I could have found. So, did you see now, sirs? That was an alpha strike.
Yeah.
But the alpha strike, when you're in a group, in pre-made PvP groups, the science officer is really the one who calls targets. He has sub nuke, so he sub nukes and then call focus fire on the certain target. You alpha strike it and they are pretty much dead.
If there's no science officer with no science ship, it's usually a tactical officer that does that.
Not what I have learned previously.
No.
It's for you.
User joined your channel.
I only come to listen, they're all dead up there.
But in our teams, when we PvP, the one who call targets is, of course, should be Sai, but we use tactical officer.
For PvPs, I take it Romulan heavy plasma torpedoes aren't the best thing to go for, since they're too slow.
In today's PvP, the most used ships are now cruisers with fire at will. So
No,
when
I
you
mean
fire
the
fire that torpedo, it usually doesn't get to the target.
And more often than not, it just blows up in your face and causes more damage to you.
Yeah.
So with an escort now, my advice is not to use torpedoes, not to spec into torpedoes, because you lose valuable points in other areas that you can. So you use just if you have 4 weapon slots, weapon slots, you use 4 dual heavies or dual cannons, or 3 dual heavies or a dual beam bank to maximize your spike damage.
That's interesting.
As I'm now using 3 dual cannons and a dual beam bank on my bugship. The days when torpedoes ruled is pretty much over in stone.
Got ya.
Almost alpha strike with.
Okay, that has to be one for the history books.
But when you see we are now, he couldn't escape, so that was pretty good to see.
All powers are on cooldown.
Yeah, so
Kill the
when
rest of them and trying to look like you.
Yeah, when you, my initial strike failed because he used all his abilities, but when you focus fire on him, the other player can kill him. So it's necessary to use strategy and talk to each other when you are using an alpha strike or abilities like that.
What about skins?
Is that a grappling hook?
Yep.
Really?
That's a blast from the past. Oh man, that's a blast from the present.
Yeah!
I'm trying to keep you people alive, damn it. Unless you're Amaro, then I just want to kill you.
Also, Amura is now, he's using his speed to increase his defense value. So you also should take into account the speed of your vessel.
Speed tank, it's called the speed tanking.
Mm.
Basically, what Hershey said is true. Speed tank in current PvP situation is the now mostly recommended on every ESCO bird of prey or warbird like the Walrus to use. Why? Because due to fire of will spam with direct enemy generation, if you're shield tanker, you can forget about that. If you're hull tanker, you also can forget about it. Because the more you are strafing, maneuvering through a speed tank, the more that fire will miss.
Yeah, and Amura's mistake is now he stopped for just a moment.
Actually, that wasn't me stopping, that was my speed tanking being countered by taking my engines offline.
Oh, or that.
Well, that'll do it.
See, phasers are still useful for messing with people's plans.
The raw strategy behind the tactical officer is destroy them before they destroy you. They tank by destroying their target first.
Bye, Amaro.
But where you're now, tractor the like Amura, there's nothing you can do, unfortunately. With multiple,
Oh, the hit and run tactic, it does wreak havoc for the engineers that are trying to heal you.
Yes, it does.
It's also a double-edged sword in case in terms of your own DPS, because speed tanking reduces the window you have to deal damage to the enemy with your primary weapons.
Auxiliary was taken offline, so my tier 5 Romulan reputation was disabled.
Ah.
Also, we have tactical captains with cruisers, like here Killerby. But that will be covered in
With most kills.
upcoming.
But you can't
Engineer.
trust the number of kills metric in STO because it's
Yeah,
the number
that's
of
fire
people you've
drill
had a
based,
hand in
yeah.
killing.
Yeah, right now I would rather use my battle cruiser than the Armitage.
Yeah, which is now the most usable build, auxiliary to battery, with fire at will and direct energy modulations, and there are accompanying DOFs. But a couple of months ago, the best usage was 4 dual heavy cannons.
Hershey, leave me alone.
That's it, I'm picking stuff up already because just in this one session alone I'm actually picking up more survivability.
Yeah, same here actually. I'm usually really bad at tactical, and I'm just a little bit bad.
So if you are at
really
attack,
bad.
can't break someone, just move on to another target. If you are in a one-on-one, not focus firing. If you are focus firing, just follow orders of your caller.
Bye-bye, Shannon.
Damn you, Trick.
Yeah, and make sure it's only one person calling the targets, not 2 or 3. Folk will get confused.
But when you're in a pre-made group, it's very beneficial to have a backup caller if the other one is too spammed or can't see or anything else, as we have those subspace integration circuit consoles when often you can't see anything around you or anything. So a backup caller is very much appreciated and must be used.
Typically the best caller is, as you said, a science character or
Yeah.
an engineer whose primary focus is healing, and thus they'll typically be perched on the edge of a battle
Yeah,
rather than in
and
the middle
he
of it.
has time to see around him. When I'm not in an escort, oh, it's Makino. Ah! And
Almost
here's
got you.
TV, did you cloak or it is a Romulan reputation?
Romulan.
Yeah.
It's still technically
Didn't
a
save
cloak,
him.
but no, I didn't save him. Didn't have any engines on.
I think we should
Available.
set up a kit out spud fund.
Who's the current target for us?
Oh yeah, this is not a great build here.
Who's tickling me?
That would be me.
Leave me alone, Hershey.
Die and I'll kill Amura after you.
Damn. Tricker, no. Why, Tricker? Why?
Why, Trick?
Because I
Because
want to see
me.
die.
Oop, that was a bad time to cloak.
Really, who is tickling my shields? This is getting amusing.
Why is everyone tickling everyone today? It's disturbing.
Just be glad Murphy isn't here.
Who's Murphy?
Says, you saw in the first battle that I can kill you, and yet you tried to
Alpha
take me
strike
on.
ready, 2,
Hey,
3, 1.
hey, I'm persistent.
Yeah,
Sometimes
give
Hey,
you
drop
that.
below 90%.
And Sirs is that.
Sometimes persistence is the key to your downfall.
Yeah.
Oh, shockingly, Killerwing has more skills.
No.
In
Why
fact, he
is
has
that?
all of them.
Fire at will, yeah.
Hey,
Yep.
get another purple heart.
No, you don't.
Oh, also I got a purple heart for being the most callable.